On a 3, 2, 1, yeah.
3, 2, 1.
Yeah.
All right,
Thank you
getting
guys
right
so
into
much.
it. Sports special on the Macky and Schmidt show.
Let's go.
First one
Sports.
is most entertaining sport in the world. Okay, most
All
entertaining.
right. You want to take this first? Or you want me to
Yeah,
go?
yeah, I'll go first. Okay.
All right, it's all you.
Now, when I'm looking at American sports,
Mhm.
I'm
Yeah.
like, I want to watch football over everything, every other sport. Now,
Okay.
my favorite,
Basic, but okay.
yeah, my favorite sport was basketball. All growing up, I played basketball.
Yeah.
Like, and I quit playing football, um, my freshman year of high school. Then I started
Hmm.
junior year, and now I play college football, which is weird. But I
Yeah.
loved basketball, and then I kind of like I don't want to play this anymore, kind of. And
Hmm.
then so when I watched when I was little, I only watched football. It was weird. I would sit down Saturday for college football. They
Yeah.
would have the college football, what is it, pregame show before the main
Hmm.
show, and main game,
Yeah.
and I would watch
Yeah.
it all day, and every single
Yeah.
game that was on, because we had like a ESPN special, so I watched
Yeah.
it all day long, literally all
Yeah.
Saturday long and Sunday, the
Yeah.
NFL as well. So I would say football is probably the most American football is the most entertaining sport in the world. That might just be because I'm American and I don't know anything else about the world, but
Yeah,
that's
I
only
do
me.
think technically the most popular sport in the world is supposed to be soccer,
Yeah,
just based on worldly viewings,
yeah,
like viewing numbers of the world. But yeah, I mean, you guys know my opinion on football a little bit. We talked about it during our first Bears talk on that first episode. I got introduced to it, sort of, but I didn't like it because it just kind of like took the TV and I didn't enjoy watching it because I had no idea what it was. I didn't understand. Then I learned about it in high school, and I enjoy watching it now. I wouldn't put a whole day dedicated to it, but I do enjoy watching it. So I totally understand where you're coming
yeah.
from. My take here might be a little bit controversial, but volleyball is like probably
What?
the sport that I
Uh
literally
huh.
like
Yeah.
that I
Okay.
enjoy watch. Okay, listen. That I like actively enjoy. Like if I was gonna go, if it's like a high school game or if it's like a college game,
Huh.
I hardly went to any other sports and like wanted to watch the sport. Men's basketball, I did go to watch. It was fun,
Yeah.
but it was mostly because I had friends playing, and that's why I went. But like in college, I didn't know some of the volleyball players, but I would go and watch volleyball just to do it. And like we would play sand volleyball all the time. It's so much fun. I don't know what it is about it, but I love watching volleyball. I like watching the how close it gets to the ground, but it gets saved and you spike it in somebody's face. And I know it's a big thing in the Olympics, especially like sand volleyball, indoor volleyball. I don't know. I wouldn't be able to tell you every rule or regulation, and I wouldn't be able to name pro athletes. But I think it's the most fun that I actually have watching a sport.
What?
In my recent life, yeah,
Volleyball.
volleyball, yeah,
I will say
and
I watched my sister used to play volleyball all the time. Like she
yeah,
played softball a lot, and then she kind of burned out, so she plays volleyball. Her like travel volleyball her
hmm,
whole high school career. So
yeah,
I went to the tournaments, and there'd be
yeah,
men's tournaments there, and that
yeah.
is crazy.
No, it
Like they
is,
hit it
and
so
like
hard, and they jump so
you
high,
can.
it's insane. It's actually like
It's like all these athletes
yeah,
that can do a ton of stuff, but they're hitting a little ball, and it's I don't know, it's awesome to me. I don't know, it's fun.
yeah. That is
It's really fun to
that was
watch.
a little
Yeah.
controversial. I would say.
It is a little controversial, and I debated whether or not I should go with it, but that's what I kept coming to. I wanted to say basketball. I really wanted to say basketball, because that was the sport I did. If I was going to watch a sport by choice, it was basketball for like my whole life. But I think it's just because that's also one of the ones that's more available.
Yeah, that's
Like
true.
football and basketball are the mainstream sports, I would say,
Yeah,
in America.
definitely.
So yeah,
So we're moving
but
on, right?
yeah,
Hardest
I
sport
think so. Yeah.
to play in the world. Hardest sport to play in the world.
The hardest sports.
Hardest sport. This is like a two-part question.
Hmm.
So hardest sport to play in the world. We'll do this one first. Okay. I would say
Okay,
mine is oh man, hockey. To
just
play
for
hockey, just to play hockey.
like skill difficulties that we're
Yes.
talking about.
No,
Okay,
no, no,
yeah,
no.
I
Just like to
or
play it.
physical.
Yeah, physically.
Okay, so physically hard.
Yes.
Okay,
I
okay.
would say hockey is the hardest. You got to skate like a figure
Hmm.
skater, and you got to basically
Yeah,
you're on ice and you're playing football then the puck is going 110 miles an hour, and you got to be able to
Yeah.
hit it. Like that's got to be the hardest sport to play, like
Okay.
in
If we're
general.
talking physically hard, the first thing that came to my mind, I think, is rugby, is what it's
Oh yeah,
called.
that's good.
Yeah, where you're just literally full tackling people, no pads for a ball. It's literally football with fast, strong people and no pads,
Hmm.
and people get concussed all the time. I think the most physically challenging, most physically hard is it's got to be rugby.
Yeah.
Like
There's a guy
it's crazy.
on my football team. He went.
Hmm.
He grew up in. Okay, he was born in California. He grew
Okay.
up in. Uh, where was it? He's Nigerian, but he was born in California. He
Mhm.
moved to Britain, so he like has a Britain accent, and he's huge. He
Okay.
looks like the Predator. Like
Yeah.
that's what he looks like,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
he's massive. And he's like he played rugby, and those that's like the normal size for a rugby player, like a pro rugby
Yeah.
player. And he's
Yeah.
like 6'5", 270, and he's like
That's
what's it 3% muscle or body fat?
yeah.
Insane.
3%. That's insane.
He's the
No,
biggest
that's
person and the strongest person I've ever seen. He benched like
like
465 or something.
we were talking about fighting Mike Tyson, but imagine just being on a field of
Yeah,
people full like that size
yeah.
running at you. Like if you had the ball in your hands, you probably weren't going to
Now he might
survive.
not be the best football player, like but his size is just insane.
Yeah,
So you put him on the
yeah,
field just because he's so big and fast. He's
yeah,
just like a marvel. So that's like
mhm,
all of when the Olympics are on, you get to watch rugby, and
yeah,
I like watched a little bit of it. The men's,
yeah.
those are the biggest people,
Oh yeah,
like
for sure.
in the world, and they're playing
Yeah,
with no pads on, and you're getting ran over by those people. It's crazy.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And that begs another question of like maybe what's the hardest sport to play, but maybe what's the sport you can play with the least skill and
Yeah.
just pure athleticism,
Yeah.
which is probably going to be track and field
Track and
because
field.
that's literally
Yeah,
what
because
track
you're
and
literally
field
running.
is
Yeah.
is it's about speed and athleticism and strength. It's
Uh-huh.
not necessarily about skill. Until you get to the point, like I'm a thrower, so I'm going to debate this, but throwing is all about form.
Yeah, it's
You
technical.
need the speed and strength in your form, but if you don't have form, you're not getting anything.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
All right. So the second part of that question was
yeah.
hardest to be good at. Okay.
All right.
Now
So
I will
the most
say
skillful sport.
the hardest sport to be
Yeah.
good at, to be the top tier athlete. And I will
Hmm.
say it'll have to be boxing. Okay.
Boxing. Okay.
Boxing. Because those people are like they work out literally it's like their job, but they have to work out 10 hours a day to stay in shape, in the shape
Yeah.
that they need to be top tier.
Yeah.
It's insane, and
Well,
they
yeah,
have
that
to
and
work on working out and work on
yeah,
fighting and all
yeah.
that stuff. So
Well, yeah, they've got workout conditioning, they've got fighting training, and then like their diets have to be insane too.
yeah,
Like, I'm pretty sure they probably have one of the most strict diets too
especially if
that
you're
any
in
sport
a
requires.
lower weight class, like
Yeah.
those
Oh
people,
yeah, for sure.
and they work. It's insane how high of a work ethic they have.
Yeah.
Like Floyd Mayweather wasn't bad or wasn't good because he had a bad work ethic. You know,
Yeah. Oh yeah,
he
for
made
sure.
$1 billion for a reason. Like he
No,
worked
and I
his ass
think
off.
think that's the thing with almost every pro sport that your work ethic has to be there. You're not going to make it.
Yeah.
Now there are some when you have like big teams that need a bunch of reserves. Maybe if you're just really gifted and you do work, but it's not maybe your focus is your work ethic.
Mm.
Maybe you make it. But a sport like boxing, it's literally on you. That's what I was going to say. I was going to say boxing or wrestling
Yeah.
were my options because wrestling again is the same way. It's a lot about your form. You spend a lot of time on your fighting skill, and then your diet's insane. I know some wrestlers personally that like their diets they have to do while they're in season versus outside of season, or
It's
they're both
insane.
so strict, but they're so different as well.
Yeah.
So
When so at football practice they have during the spring wrestlers are also working out their off season,
yeah,
and they were
yeah,
like doing complete 800s like the track
yeah,
team, while they're
yeah,
also before that lifting weights. Like they're doing
hmm,
5 800s and then doing basically a track workout. Then they're going
yeah,
outside and lifting. Like
yeah,
they're definitely the hardest sport to be good at. It's
yeah.
just the
I
mixed
think
martial
yeah,
arts, kind of the fighting type of
yeah.
sports. So
And then I think coming from an American's perspective, I know soccer or football isn't like the biggest sport here, and for us, thinking about doing all that stuff with our feet probably sounds super challenging.
yeah,
So I wanna give an honorable mention to soccer and football because like yeah, I don't know. I could not imagine doing as much as I do with my feet only. So